we say praise be to the Creator, all power to his people. In the name of Yahshua, the Black Revolutionary Messiah, I greet you, my brothers and sisters, in the spirit of truth and the words of peace. Shalom Aleichem. It is an honor to be on the air tonight with Main Source Network, the Main Source Network, bringing you the truth that Yahshua said will make us free. So tonight we have a very exciting show going on tonight. We have Brother Vik out of the West Coast, who's one of our special guests tonight, and we're going to be discussing the issue of the CIA crack connection. The CIA crack connection. Now, those of us who are 30, 40-ish at least, you can remember back in the mid-90s, an interesting story broke, came out of the San Jose News, and a reporter named Gary Webb did a 3-part series on the CIA crack connection, because a lot of people have been focused on the Iran-Contra scandal, that the United States was involved in gun sales to the Contras, to fund to the Contras, and how that played out. But it wasn't until Gary Webb broke that particular story that the minds of the people began to look at South Central L.A. and the drug dealing there. And the reporter Gary Webb put out a 3-part story called Dark Alliance, and I think it was 1996. And that really got people talking. Then he later put out a book called Dark Alliance. And there is a movie coming out. It's going to roll out this week. Deal called Kill the Messenger, and it's supposed to detail the life of Gary Webb, and I think it's basically focusing on his death and how the powers that be, so to speak, deal with you when you bring the truth. So I want to bring Brother Vik on to add on to this. He said he knew Gary Webb personally. So this is an excellent brother, a great brother. He's an organizer out of L.A., worldwide really, but really in the L.A. area. So, Brother Vik, welcome to the program, brother.
Well, great to be on. Great to be here.
Yes, sir. So I want to, being that you are very, very familiar with the West Coast, being an organizer on the West Coast, let's look at it, put it in an historical context, first of all, and we'll get right to the point. How damaging, brother, and we'll start from here, has the crack epidemic been on the West Coast? I know it's kind of a rhetorical question, but if you could put it in some kind of chronological order.
Well, I can. That's an important question. No, it's devastating to the black community all across L.A. Metro, meaning L.A. to San Bernardino. And it really has really damaged the organizing they were doing. They were doing amazing things in the 70s until crack emerged. Really, 78 was the key year. And then, Gary Webb, through his source, Rick Ross, documented the devastation of what went on in South Central LA. But what a lot of people don't realize is that it had an incredible reach, all across LA Metro, like 100 miles deep. Every black community was devastated by crack. Like this weekend, I've been looking at Santa Ana and crack and what happened to blacks there. They had such a big community. It's a city in Orange County. People don't associate blacks in Orange County, but historically Santa Ana had an influential black community. So that's the thing that people perhaps really don't understand. I'm looking at it from an organizer point of view. The huge impact on every black area all across LA Metro. We're talking 100 miles deep. and how much crack devastated communities. A lot of people don't realize that historically in LA had the best small business community in LA, and today it's totally gone. It's not what it used to be. They had gas stations. I mean, they did amazing things. There's a movie called LA East Sider that can give you that history. So that's the thing that people perhaps wouldn't realize, all these things, is the devastation of so many communities that were really doing cutting edge stuff. I think there never would have been a Black Panthers in LA. LA, Southern California Black Panthers was one of the most organized operations there was. So organized, the United States created a SWAT team. First SWAT team ever came to challenge the Black Panthers. True story. So, you couldn't have had that if you, in the era of crack, which I think the key year is 78 in terms of its impact on so many communities. And that's how all these immigrants came in and took over historical Black areas. It's all documented. I'm not making it up.
Now, there's a rumor, brother, if I could, not to cut you off, but how accurate is the allegation that it was the scourge of drugs? Drugs was introduced in the community during the late 70s. I guess you're dealing with heroin. During the late 70s.
A lot of the heroin came. It's funny. The wars often leads to a lot of drugs coming into L.A. Like the two cities that had the most impact of drugs as a result of the Central America operation were Miami and L.A. Drug money going to the Contras in Nicaragua. And then before that, the heroin really comes out of Vietnam War.
Right.
So anytime there's a war, drugs come in. And I think that's why the importance of Gary Webb's Dark Alliance is, another thing is very problematic. You know this because, you discussed it on Facebook, that the Black media, the Black American media has become a joke.
Right.
They don't go after things. They don't go after institutions. They just follow along the Black Caucus, Obama, and they don't engage things. Why is it that Gary Webb is the one who did this? And this is, like I said, pure accident he got all this information. And why isn't the Black media engaging? Where's the Black media on this Gary Webb thing? Nowhere to be found. And, that's important. Black media is miseducating, Black America. That's important.
I agree. Now, it's rumored that heroin was introduced in the L.A. area, the Bay Area in California, as a direct attack on the Black Panther Party. How accurate is that allegation?
Yeah, I've heard that. Where I have 100% evidence about crack and CIA and U.S. government, I don't have 100% evidence on heroin. But that's what a lot of people believe, that heroin was part of the whole thing to destroy the Black Panthers. But I don't have 100% direct, clear-cut evidence like I do with crack. Crack is clear-cut.
Okay. All right, so we'll stick to the crack thing. Now, a lot of people, and another allegation has been that before the crack epidemic in the, early 80s to mid-80s, you can help me with the chronological order of that, the gang war between the Bloods and the Crips hadn't escalated to the point where it was murders every night, so to speak, or multiple murders every night, But a lot of people saying it was with the crack epidemic that the gangs really turned towards the violence.
Right. Here's one of the things as a community organizer in LA inner city, historical Black areas all over, from LA to San Bernardino. I know this history good. What a lot of people don't realize is that there wasn't really much of a war between Crips and Bloods in the 70s. it really emerges out of crack. You know, there's so many areas I can rattle the names. You know, I can just rattle the names to you. Because it's an interesting story that a lot of people wouldn't know about unless you really know L.A. and the emergence of Bloods and Crips. The original Bloods were not really Bloods. They were blood-aligned. You know, gangs like Bounty Hunters, Blackfeet Stones, you know, on and on, like a Pueblo, Bishop Bloods, and all that. They were blood-aligned. And they were actually like the Brims, for instance, had an alliance with Raymond Washington, the founder of the Crips. And they built this alliance, like, for instance, Brims and, give you an example, I went to a reunion last year with, you know, you had Brims and you had East Coast Crips. They all got along. So that's what a lot of people don't realize. It wasn't until crack cocaine that you really have this. A lot of this stuff is, people are dishonest about this stuff. But the original blood-aligned gang had a lot of those gangs had alliances with Raymond Washington, like the Brims. But it wasn't until crack cocaine that whole split really took place. And that's what a lot of people are not given the right information on it. As someone who's on the ground floor, I go to 100% gang areas. I've done food giveaways in a Brim apartment building. I've done food giveaways, you know, in Crip areas. I've worked. I did stuff with a blood gang in a housing project in the Watts area. So I have a lot of history. I understand what's going on, but that's what people don't really understand. That's why crack was so devastating. It split the black community wide open. And that's something people don't talk about that, you know what I mean? That's why crack was so devastating.
Now let's jump to the Gary Webb, the new movie coming out. As you know, a new movie comes out called Kill the Messenger. It's supposed to premiere this weekend. This weekend coming up, October 10th. And I think it's going to roll out across the country over the next several weeks, but the actual premiere is October 10th. And it's dealing with Gary Webb. As someone who knew Gary Webb personally, can you speak on the truth? Because there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of information that about Gary Webb. You know, he fabricated some parts of it. He blew it out of proportion. So let's deal with Gary Webb, since you know him personally, as a reporter in his early years.
Yeah, you see, Gary was a really good reporter for the San Jose Mercury News, who did all kinds of really good stories. I guess having gone to high school in Northern California, I'm very familiar with the Bay Area press. I used to read San Jose Mercury News every day in the 80s, and before I moved to LA in the late 80s. So I'm very familiar how San Jose Mercury News does things and how the reporters report on things. So that's the thing about Gary. He never puts out there anything that he doesn't have 100% sources. And that's something a lot of people would realize. They only just focus on the Dark Alliance. They don't really focus pre-Dark Alliance and understanding what San Jose Mercury News is as a newspaper. I read that paper every day. They never have a reporter who puts out false information. So everything he documented is 100% accurate. Everything he said is 100% accurate. He has never lied on any article he ever did for San Jose Mercury News. What happened was the mainstream media got jealous of Gary Webb. He stole the story from them. Story that they had information they didn't want to put out. It's not the first time in the 80s in the Bay Area, right? People had talked about this crack CIA Christic Institute, particularly was one of the first to put it out there. So if people knew about this, people who knew the street scene, everybody knew about this. This was not a fabrication. So everything Gary Webb did was 100% accurate. because he has never lied on any article. I talked to him point blank several times on his articles, and he told me flat out he never puts out anything without 100% confirmed source, and that's important. I remember that one time he was so angry at the mainstream media, and he was talking about how he was attacked and all that thing, and he, like I said, he's an honest journalist who really comes from the old school of like investigative journalists, like the way the old 60 Minutes was in the 60s and 70s. So he comes, and that's important to point out. Anyone who attacks Gary, total nonsense. Everything he said, he pointed out, is 100% true. People in the streets know it. But nobody wanted to take on the elite media in this country, not the black newspapers, not the black radio stations. Only Gary Webb put it out there in terms of person who are media. And so we should all be grateful to Gary for taking this challenge on and never retreating, never once from a story. Say 100% accurate. And I talked to him before he died. So, I got a good sense of how he sourced the story. And I think it's 100% accurate. I believe everything he said. And people on the streets have all confirmed that.
Now, you mentioned, before we went on the air, we were talking, and you said, you asked why did it take Gary Webb to bring that story to the forefront, because as you know, and as you just stated, that talk has been around in the black community for a long time, forever, that the government was involved in putting drugs in the black community. One of my favorite books is I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Dr. Patricia Turner. And that book was written back in 1994, and her last chapter is dealing with the rumor of how crack cocaine got into the black community. But she didn't go into the details and name the names and pinpoint like Gary Webb. So why do you think Gary Webb's story began to resonate across the planet when it's been such a rumor and innuendo in the black community for so many years?
Yeah, that's a good question, a real good question. I think quite often it takes time to get this story out. People just hear rumors. No one really digs in on it, right? A lot of rumors go on, right? It's so many things, right? It just takes, but the thing that I think is important to point out, right? It says it's two things that I think about. Once the black politicians started controlling these cities, the black newspapers decided just to support the black politicians. They didn't give a fuck about South Central Watts or East Oakland. That's important to point out, that the black newspaper had changed. Like L.A. has a history of one as good a black newspaper as there was in the United States. In fact, they forced L.A. to change. So, forced to have civil rights laws they didn't want. But I think that's an important variable into this, is the nature of the black media changed. Like, I wouldn't have to use a Twitter network to do St. Louis for anything. You're on my list. But this black media is just not doing their job. Maybe we're lucky we get a couple of black sources that gives you real information. So that's important to point out, is the decline of the black media as an important source of information. They just want to just go along with the elite and not give you that information that we need to really look at these things. And then there's the secondary thing that really came out of why I think what Gary Webb's story is, there's something like he gets, that I get, a lot of people haven't discussed, is that there was such anger in black America, right, after this crack story, that they said, hey, wait a minute, we got to be online. A lot of people don't realize it. Before the Gary Webb story in 96, they were not much of a factor online. All of a sudden, man, it was incredible hits. Everybody wanted to be online. So you see the impact today on the Ferguson St. Louis movement on black Twitter, right? You know, I haven't followed this closely. Black Twitter. That never happens without this story. Gary Webb totally changed how blacks see the media. Say, hey, we can't trust the media no more. I think that's his biggest contribution, as I see it, is that blacks say, hey, screw our newspapers, screw the mainstream media. Let's come out with our own way of getting information. And that's why this Black Twitter network has revolutionized how blacks see themselves in the media. And that is, I think, is a direct corollary to what Gary Webb did in 96. I mean, it was incredible, city after city, the number one story, Dark Alliance. It got more hits than anything I'd ever seen. You know, when I've been following the media since a kid in New York in the 70s, I've never seen anything like it. Dark Alliance has resonated with every community in Black America. And that's something people need to think about. People need to think about how what you see today with the Black Twitter network is a direct result of Gary Webb.
Yeah, and it also, I guess, indirectly affected hip-hop, because if there was no Dark Alliance, there would have been no Rick Ross. The world would have known about Freeway Rick Ross, and consequently, there would be no fake hip-hop Rick Ross. So talk about that Rick Ross connection with Gary Webb, and any information how you think that happened, because I saw something very interesting on one of the, I think it was either C-SPAN or one of the archives, when they were interviewing Freeway Rick Ross, and it said that he was making $3 million a day, and I had to rewind that back. I'm like, how is that possible to make $3 million a day? So if you could touch on that as well, brother.
I think that is an important point. Hip-hop itself blew it on this. I think that's, for me, you know, they only started talking about it until Rick Ross wheeled all that info to Gary Webb. Right. So hip-hop is guilty on that. They didn't, because I think, once again, it's establishment. They don't want to be scared out, because, you know, like a lot of the stuff happened in 92, especially with the consolidation of the corporate labels, right? Warner Brothers, everything else, right? And they got rid of people like Paris and everything else, right? So I think the hip-hop thing is an important thing, that hip-hop didn't want to discuss these things. It's really interesting when I was a kid, in terms of ghetto life and inner-city culture. It was more people like Curtis Mayfield and Donny Hathaway that dealt with these things. But the hip-hop has never wanted to deal with this crack, CIA, and the conspiracies, what people see as conspiracy, which is not a conspiracy, truth. So that, I think, is an important variable that hip-hop journalists need to discuss, is where was hip-hop on this? Where was it?
Yeah, because I can only remember, as far as the hip-hop connection, the hip-hop addressing it, I remember Self-Destruction, who did it indirectly. Yeah. I remember De La Soul did Say No Go. Yeah. And it was, and I think KRS-One and somebody did
KRS-One. Yeah, KRS-One actually was the only one that really engaged on it. Actually brought him to the grass as a group. We brought him to actually speak on hip hop. KRS-One, KRS-One. That was actually the Self-Destruction was KRS-One's idea. That was his thing. KRS-One was the only one that really engaged on it, to my knowledge. And you see, like, it's not that they were ignoring it, but the thing is, there were like Curtis Mayfield and Donny Hathaway were willing to look at society and expose the crap taking place. This, you have to remember, the 80s, this comes down to like the change. Remember, I just mentioned to you how much the cultural shift you saw with the black newspapers. Right. I think the same thing could be said about black music, that they were only willing to talk a certain thing. Like, you know, I mean, even the most conscious hip-hop, people like X-Clan, Polygamy, Polarized Tears, Eric B. Rakim, and anyone else you can name that you see as, Gangstar, anyone you see is conscious. Why don't people engage on it? Because they don't really engage on the inner city like the way Curtis Mayfield and Donny Hathaway did. See, I really feel they were so important for me because I don't believe I'm a grassroots organizer in the inner city without Donny Hathaway and Curtis Mayfield. They engaged on the problems of the ghetto, the drug dealers, the problems of inner city. You don't see hip-hop do that. And that is a shortcoming of hip-hop, and that's why they blew it on this crack story.
Yeah, and also we go back to the late Steve Coakley, the failure to name the names. Yeah. The failure to name the names. That's one of the things hip-hop has not really done as far as naming the names. Most things that are done in hip-hop have been hypothetical. But I guess if they really would have embraced, it was a little after the conscious era. But even with on the underground, if they would have dealt really with taking it to the level of the Gary Webb Dark Alliance, they would have had to name the names. And, when you start naming the names, that takes you on a whole different path.
You see another thing a lot of people don't realize, and you do a good discussion on black nationalism, right? Why we can't be black nationalists today because of the, the crap you deal with the gays, the Jews, and all that. Is that's an important variable. A lot of people wouldn't know this, but since I grew up in New York, right? See, they started the disco clubs, right? Hip-hop. But who owned the disco clubs? The Jews.
Right.
So that's an important variable. Steve Coakley is one of the few people that has discussed this. I talked to him one-on-one about it. Luckily we were in LA, so I could get to talk to him. Steve Coakley is the only guy who's willing to be honest on it. A lot of people don't realize that they went after KPFK. It was the only LA station that was real on inner city issues. And Steve Coakley was one of the key people of KPFK in the early 90s. And they went after and smashed KPFK because they wanted to destroy Steve Coakley. A lot of people don't know that. They see his videos, they see what he taught. But he had a profound impact on the LA movement. That's why the LA movement is so much more advanced than any black movement in the United States. And a lot is because of people like Coakley engaged and made it special. Because he named the name, he was honest, and wasn't afraid of nobody. Not afraid of Jews, Zionists, any of these people that attack people who want to do black nationalism, threats to U.S. society. This whole gay, lesbian, constantly attacking people that want to promote pro-black positions. And I think that's why Coakley made such a profound difference to the LA black movement. That's why the LA black movement is ahead of anybody else in this country, because they're not afraid to call themselves black nationalists.
Wow.
They're not afraid to attack Jews and gays.
Good point. Good point, brother. Now, let's deal with the Freeway Rick Ross issue. From what I've researched and what I've studied playing parts of his interviews, the way he portrays himself on the various interviews is like he was just a pawn in the gang and an innocent victim. How accurate is that? I mean, how innocent can you really be? You're making $3 million a day. But
he was no innocent.
Yeah, I mean, but if you play his videos, he's like, I was just a pawn. I didn't know. He said, we didn't know it was going to be the devastating thing that it turned out to be. I'm like, how could you not know?
He's lying.
Yeah.
I have people that know what he did on the ground every day in LA. And he benefited a gang called the Hoover Gang. The Hoover Gang was really emerged in the 80s as the most influential gang in South Central LA. Because he supplied them the drugs. But the Hoovers weren't the only beneficiary. So what happened in the 80s is that he really built an operation. He owned hotels in South Central. He was so important to gangs like the Hoover gang in terms of crack. And so he's basically lying on everything. He's a business guy looking to make money, and that's how you got to look at it. But the thing that I would say, he's not the only guy that did that. So,
right.
So I think sometimes I feel people just picking on him when there was a lot of other people like that. You look at the devastation in Miami because of drugs to the black community. I mean, they destroyed Black Miami. I did a project on Black Miami, you know. So you know what I mean? Rick Ross is lying. He's just trying to cover himself, you know. But the point is this: if it wasn't Rick Ross, it would have been someone else.
Right.
Yeah, that's the history of this country. That's just the history of this country. That, you know, they always try to destroy what blacks are doing with all kinds of schemes and gadgets. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Now you see with Obama trying to push gays in the black community now. Right. I mean, they do all these kinds of things that, you know, you have to understand your community in terms of how it's done. And I think that the thing that I got out of Rick Ross and what he did was that he, you know, he's a business guy. He wanted to make money. To say that he didn't know the impact of it, he's lying. You can't do something like that without understanding the long-term impact of your action. But I will say that, you know, that he saw it as a way to make money. And you see, like, the era of the late 70s, early 80s, and middle 80s was people making money off drugs. And, you know what I mean, you look at, like, just what happened in L.A. recently, a massive raid on the Mexican drug cartel. A lot of people don't realize it, but most of the Mexican communities today in Southern California are all controlled by drug cartel. And so like I said, it doesn't matter who the names are. It's a system of white supremacy and a system of racist institutions and exploiting people to do the dirty work for the system.
Yeah, and what I found interesting about the Rick Ross controversy, Freeway Rick Ross versus the rapper Rick Ross, was that the controversy could have been and should have been the name-to-name situation, how did it happen, and more importantly, the connections that's still going on. We could have raised a whole lot of questions to Freeway Rick Ross if he's really honest about what he did and really remorseful, asking some real pertinent questions that could help us with the Mali crisis and now even the Ebola crisis and all these other things. Chemical warfare, biological warfare. We could, but we could have actually asked these questions that could have actually elevated the dialogue and really had us pinpoint some things to get to the genesis of the things. But the dialogue became, oh, he stole my name. And that became the whole topic of conversation, not what was done, not who did it, but just the fact that, oh, he stole my swagger.
Right. You see, that's what we're left with, right? We don't want to engage on the real issues, like what Steve Coakley did in really exposing what's taking place in Black America. Naming names, talking about what's really taking place. We're stuck. So who's Rick Ross? Who's the real Rick Ross?
Right.
I mean, it's absurd. You see, like, the thing is, that's why I really hold hip-hop accountable for this mess with crack. They didn't want to deal with it, you know. I'm just giving you my own opinion about it. You know, in terms of dealing with real inner-city issues, I mean, I'll take Curtis Mayfield dying Hathaway over hip-hop any day. You know, I've said it on Facebook. You don't let me know. You see, why don't they want to engage on the real issues? And they could do politics for anything else, but they don't want to touch CIA and crack.
Right.
Why is that? And we need to really engage on hip-hop to pressure them to just look at these issues, you know? Why does Steve Coakley talk about this and not hip-hop? Well,
did you read the article that came out last week dealing with the CIA kind of not orchestrating but kind of watching the destruction of Gary Webb? And it was also reported in the article that, you know, they had friendly reporters, even in the black media. Well, I won't say the black media, but black reporters who kind of looked the other way. And, you know, it was like the LA Times. Great, brother.
Yeah, well, it's important to point out that the trash job LA Times was done by a black reporter against Gary Webb. That's important to point out. I that was why I got, you know, I boycotted LA Times for so long. But then, I realized they're the only newspaper that give you all kinds of stories. Yeah, that's important to point out. It was a black reporter that trashed Gary Webb LA Times. Wow. I still have the article with me. Yeah. I know the people who trashed him, all the writers. Because, I was organizing around those issues of crack, Contra, connection. And so, that's important to point out. Yeah. But I think another thing that's important to point out was where were the LA black newspapers? I mean, Barry doesn't really have that much of a black community beyond a few areas, where LA's got a deep, deep black community. And it's something like a lot of people in the Northeast don't know much about. They don't know about San Bernardino, Rialto, Barstow, but they've always been connected to LA because of the Louisiana black history. So then when they see all these immigrants come in outside of all the black people are losing their clout, it's totally false. LA has a deep, deep black community, over 2 million deep. And so that's important to point out that really the black media, once again, blew it. And why wasn't the LA black stations? Well, the only time you had really, really outstanding black media was when Steve Coakley and his Ron Wilkins and all those people were pushing that stuff on KPFK, and which is predominantly a white liberal Pacifica radio station. So, like, you know what I mean? I think that's the fundamental question I've been interested in the last 12 months is where was the black media? Where was hip-hop? Nowhere to be found. And you see, it makes it really sad when you see black communities be devastating hit, like Miami and LA, you know what I mean? So that's something to really look at, is that if we want to create effective black institutions, we have to look at people like Steve Coakley and other cutting-edge people who are willing to be honest and look at it really closely. Why is it Gary Webb, going back to the original question, why did Gary Webb do it? Because of the absence of black institutions. Wow. And that Gary Webb was just a good reporter who knew how to do investigative journalism. And that's one of the things that's really interesting to see, is that you don't have black investigative journalists. That's kind of crazy, but it's really true. And see, a lot of the...
Well, I mean, they saw what happened to Samuel Yeti, going the brother who wrote The Choice, first black reporter of Newsweek. And, he lost his job by trying to expose the plan to black people, and that was 1970. But, brother, before we open the phone line, I wanted to get you to talk about Gary Webb's supposed suicide. Now, the narrative goes he shot himself. He got so depressed. He was suffering from depression, lost his job, got blacklisted. Certain things happened to destroy him psychologically. On top of his depression, because they always say, well, he was already depressed, but then they throw weight on that. The story is 2000, I think December 2004, he shot himself twice in the head. How is that possible that you can commit suicide by shooting yourself twice in the head?
Right. Well, there needs to be a thorough investigation into his death. I don't believe he killed himself, but who did kill him? Right. A lot of people believe CIA, FBI. I've seen it out there. I wish I would have been in California all year that year. See, I was trying to finish my graduate studies at SUNY Binghamton, and I heard about Gary's death. And I wish I could have been there and talked to his family when he died. But a lot of people believe, that it was an inside job, CIA, FBI. That's something that's out there, But the thing is, you really need a thorough investigation to really prove that, because a lot of people make a lot of those kind of assertions without facts. You see, that's why you respect Steve Coakley. He names the names. Right. He ain't just throwing thing out there. So it's easy to just throw it out there. That's why I haven't discussed it on Facebook, even though I know Gary personally, because I don't have 100% evidence. So I do, I can't really say anything. Because you got to know your source.
Yeah, I agree. Brother, we're during this last segment, we're going to open the lines and see what the callers have to say. Hit this button. Caller from the 219, Brother Quabana. Okay, I thought we had Brother Quabana on the line.
I'm here.
Brother Quabana, you?
Here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had my phone on mute too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Would you like to? I hope you've been enjoying the conversation. We have Brother Vik from the West Coast on the line, and I know you are part of the West Coast as well. You want to get in on this topic as well, brother?
Yeah, just a couple things, man. It's good to hear the rap, and it's ironic because Freeway Ricky Ross is due here in Gary in next week sometime. Supposed to be coming to one of our schools. So it's ironic that this program's on tonight because I plan to try to make it over there when he comes to Westside High School to speak. And he's been coming with the Nation of Islam for several years now and doing lectures and talking. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. And now I got some more information from listening to this interview tonight. But I wanted to talk about not only the devastating impact in L.A., where I was born, but where I went to school down south, and even in small rural areas, how so many prisons just got built up, and so many people I still know today who are just getting out or still locked up in jails and prisons from this. And also that Mena airstrip, that connection from Arkansas and Bill Clinton and CIA too. So I mean, there's just so much of this and the devastation that's taking place. I want you to, if you got any information about that, Bill Clinton and George Bush and their involvement in this crack epidemic. And real quick too, because I want to think about hip hop. Because you keep saying hip hop didn't talk about it. And you mentioned Close the Crack House, the songs like Public Enemy. So many people about crack. And the hip hop, conscious hip hop during the golden age, addressed the crack epidemic thoroughly. They seriously addressed it a lot. Now today, it's still being addressed in terms of trap houses and selling dope. And we have Pharrell, who has a song called Happy that everybody loved, but they didn't play it like on the stations out here in Chicago. They didn't play Happy at all. They played Pharrell with No Future and Pusha T talking about Young N, move that dope. So it's being promoted now via slop hop. So we still must talk about that. But man, on the other end, back in the day during the golden age, our artists thoroughly with dogging out Night of the Living, Bassheads. There's so many songs dealing with that crack. Even goes back to Crack Killed Applejack by General Kane. So we were on that, trying to wake people up to the ills of that epidemic. So I want to hear you address again the thing about Mina Airstrip, if you have any information on that.
Well, good comments you made. Yeah, they're having songs crack, but they didn't engage it like the way Mayfield and Hathaway did. I've heard of every song dealing with crack and drugs. But yeah, the point you made about Clinton, yeah, that's been talked about. It seems like they had a well-organized operation, They just gave out free guns to gangs. A lot of people don't know that. I've organized with a gang leader in Watts, and that's what he was telling me. Now, nobody has investigated that, giving out guns to gangs so they can kill themselves. Now, that's something to look at.
Now, there's a rumor.
There's a rumor.
I wanted to get your perspective on this, too, on that same point. There was a rumor that was floating around, and either one of you all can address this. There was a rumor that was floating around in the early 90s that one day a train came through L.A. Full of guns, and like 2 train loads of guns, and the train just stopped in the middle of L.A. How true is that? Yeah. Or have you all heard
that? That's 100% accurate. I have it confirmed from a gang leader in Watts on that.
Yeah, I heard that too, Truth Minister. And also I heard that just recently, same thing happened in Chicago. So, yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, I think the people, the Clinton thing that the brother brought up is very important. And nobody wants to discuss those things. But they had a network all over the country, and Clinton was part of that game. It's been confirmed to me by people I believe in that really were tracking it down. They had a well-organized, there used to be a map they used to have where the crack was coming through. They would talk about Colombia, Panama. Noriega was a CIA asset, and he was part of that whole crack operation. And they had map of how it was coming through. So one of the areas where it was coming through was through Arkansas, and Clinton was part of that operation.
Yeah, and also as far as documentation, one of my favorite books is called Conspiranoia, and it's by Devon Jackson. And what the book does, it goes into the Mina Airstrip, but it connects the dots. Interesting book. I've seen it online used for like $2. So if you could, anybody gets their hand on it, it's called Conspiranoia by Devon Jackson. It goes into Mina, it connects the dots, it goes into all of that, and it connects the dots. So yeah, definitely things we need to study. But yeah, I didn't know too much about the Mina Airstrip. I've heard, rumors about it, but until you all brought it up, that wasn't even clicking in my head about that connection.
Hey, real quick, it was when I was in school at Southern University in Baton Rouge. What was this guy's name? He got killed. Barry Seal was his name. It was big news that he got killed in a plane crash and all that. Barry Seal had died, and I didn't put it together until later on. I found out that he was working with Oliver North, and they were the ones going in on there to get that drop those weapons off and come back with that crack cocaine. And then I had a homeboy from Pontiac, a classmate from Pontiac, Michigan. And he talked about the Young Boys Incorporated who got busted taking those drugs from Arkansas and driving them up through the Michigan to help devastate the black communities up in the Midwest and things like that. So man, that stuff came together like crazy.
There's another variable that's important to point out, that Arkansas's black community has always had a historical connection to LA inner city. So the 3 historical black communities that are most important in LA are Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So where do you get killed? Louisiana, right? So where did Bill Clinton do thing? Arkansas. That's important to point out. You really got to know LA inner city and its history to know this, since I really organize in areas that nobody organizes in LA inner city today. I know this history.
Wow. And this is definitely some heavy information being dropped tonight. But I thought it was real critical as we begin to wind down the show. We have a couple of minutes left. I thought it was real critical to bring this information out and at least start this dialogue. With the movie coming out this weekend, this is an excellent time to revisit that era. Because I think that a lot of times, I guess during that period, you were talking about Bill Clinton. One reason that the media really didn't stick with the whole crack connection, CIA crack connection, was because of the Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky sex scandal broke at the exact same time that the CIA crack connection broke. So, of course, if you had to, I guess Americans had to choose between, talking about little kids in the hood and crack babies, or if they had to talk about a sitting president having sex in the White House, they went with Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. So I think this is a good time to revisit, with the movie coming out, to revisit the black community, and maybe, brothers, maybe black radio and black reporters can jump on it this time, even though it's 1996, 18 years after the fact. Maybe they'll be more enticed to jump on it, especially now with the 24-hour news cycles and with the tweets and the Twitter, like you said earlier, black Twitter, Facebook, even on a grassroots level. Maybe we can, with the various blog talk radio programs, maybe we can make this an issue where we start bringing out these issues and maybe put a closure. Because my next article is called Unfinished Business. Maybe we need to put a closure on some of these issues that, although it was addressed, we really didn't get a conclusion, a definite conclusion on what happened. And because we have not gotten to a conclusion, I think it was Chairman Fred Hampton of the Black Panthers that said we wound up with answers that don't answer, explanations that don't explain, and conclusions that don't conclude.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, brother. So hopefully this broadcast and various broadcasts over the next couple of weeks, we can bring this back to the forefront, or bring it maybe for the first time, some information that people do not know. So as we begin to close out, Brother Chaubey, I'm going to get some closing comments from you, and then I'm going to get some let Brother Vik close us out. So Brother Chaubey, you have any closing comments?
Hey, man, I'm just glad it sounds like you're coming out of retirement. So so I'm glad, I'm happy about that. And, it's still going on today. Like you mentioned the Mali earlier, and I just heard something about a vicious murder that took place of a friend that killed another friend at his birthday party. The guy was supposedly on Mali. And just so many issues that we have with these drugs, and the fact that these trap houses and this crack is still out there. It's not as big as it was, but it's still out there, and it's still devastating our communities. We still seeing the effects of it because of the issues with mass incarceration and so many of our people being locked up in these gulags in this country. And there's an excellent article by a brother right now who's hopefully will be getting out of prison, Sundiata Akole, of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, who deals with drugs and heroin and all that coming into the communities after World War II and things like that. So if you get a chance to look up Sundiata Akole, he has a history of prisons, and he also deals with those drugs. Excellent article by our brother. And also we need to send him some energy, and hopefully he will get released out of prison.
Okay, I appreciate you, brother. Brother Vik, closing words, my brother. And it was an honor to have you on the program.
Well, I think the key thing is this is ongoing. It's not finished. This is not historical. This is 2014. The devastation of drugs to destroy Black America is important. So let's just continue to work on this day by day, and everybody can make a difference.
Okay, thank you, brother. I want to thank you both. And I want to thank everyone who's listened to this program live and everyone who's going to listen to the podcast. Main Source Network, live every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, we leave you with the closing of the Messianic Afrikan Nation. Although we have been victimized, yet we are not victims. We are a strong African people, and in the fullness of time, in the Creator's will, we shall rise again. As I leave you, my brothers and sisters, in the words of peace. Shalom Aleichem.